Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. The effects of the ongoing war in Amazonia, which is 7 years and counting, is having devastating effects not only on the people but most especially on La Republic du Cameroon run institutions in Amazonia. But even way before the war, colonial La Republique has been confirmed a failed state by Bretton Woods institution. The Banana Republic, which championed world corruption charts even in 1998 and 1999, was confirmed to have corruption in its DNA. La Republique is unable to realize projects even in its own territory due to corruption and embezzlement. The sad thing is how this corruption from La Republique has to affect the sovereign people of Amazonia, whom they are trying to annex, because while the world scurry around every other war-torn country to provide this, they stay silent to that of both Cameroons. Well, it's about time to get into the full briefings of Undaunted to see the happenings in and out of Amazonia and where the world's focus is at this point. Coming up right after the prime headlines.
Right here are the prime headlines for today. Would first of all consider the Bamenyam massacre. Would want to see if it's a reply of the Bako killings, if it's also to discredit the Amazonian liberation fighters and the fight for liberation as a whole. Would also look at the war in Amazonia as it keeps draining La Republic de Cameroon's financial. University of Bamenyam lecturers goes on strike again. Enablers and Blackleg, Capo Daniel claims responsibility for attacks in neighboring La Republic de Cameroon's Bam village. La Republic de Cameroon claims progress has begun on the ring road promised 41 years ago by Paul Beer. Right tonight on Undaunted, a teacher incarcerated for not complying to corrupt point in Bamenda. Tickle cancer turns to rob shop owners as revenue collection streams are dry in Bamenda. On the African scene, Kenya is making headlines with President William Ruto's announcement of plans to privatize 35 state-owned companies. And on the foreign scene, BRICS, India, and Egypt ditch trade. Now let's get the news in detail. Cameroon has stepped up the propaganda to saw the face of the Amazonian war of decolonization away from committing atrocities through sponsored armed groups and the occupation forces Ambazonia, just to turn the people against the Ambazonian Liberation and Restoration Forces and paint the ARFs as terrorists before community. La Republic de Cameroon has turned to now using their sons and daughters, which is very wrong. Well, on Monday, the 6th of November 2020, La Republique de Cameroon used her occupation forces to raid Ebako, a locality in Manfei of the Atlantic zone of Amazonia, burned houses and killed civilians. Reports, a total of 10 houses were razed to dust, with more than 24 corpses identified after being massacred, while others were burned in their homes, in an attempt to poison the minds of the people against the restoration forces. Saying that their plan to blame the Amazonian restoration forces failed, they have now carried out a similar act on their own selves. La Republic de Cameroon town in the Midland zone of Amazonia in a village called Bamenyam. The La Republic de Cameroon colonial government will stop at nothing, even killing whatsoever to save their face before the international community. Is what is the government going to benefit from these kind of heartless moves? Now let's begin here tonight.
Very lonely. Good evening, Amazonians. The La Republic of Cameroon, through one of its killer groups, has carried out a raid in Bamenyam market, killed, looted. Bamenyam is a neighboring village to the zone of Amazonia in the west region of Cameroon. Bamenyam took on Tuesday, November 21st, 2023, a total of declared 9 people killed, with property damage, a score of houses ravaged, and persons whisked away. Reports to the ground, family members are being asked to pay the sum of 20 million francs CFA for the release of their kidnapped loved ones. Now, this is almost the same operational plan that was carried out a fortnight ago in Ebeko by the occupation forces of La Republique du Cameroon. Some right thinkers say with the level of bankruptcy Republique du Cameroon covers, they will stop at nothing to keep Amazonia hostage. According to these thinkers, that is the more reason such a huge amount is charged as ransom. Well, in reaction to the Bamenyam incident, Paramount Fund of Bamenyam, Fund Muzimoko Rodrigue, has issued an order for ceremonies in his fundum until all those killed are duly buried.
Meanwhile, yesterday was Thanksgiving Day, and the people of the states of America have, but you all know many Amazonians are um, are residents of the United States. Most of them are Amazonian um, residents. And so the president of the Federal Republic of Amazonia, in the spirit, took advantage of the Thanksgiving to make a clarion call. Now let's hear him.
Fellow Ambazonians, if you are in the United States of America, I just want to wish you happy Thanksgiving. It is Thanksgiving Day. It all started in 1621. It was celebrated by 90 Americans, Native Americans, and they did that for 3 days. They just decided to come together to appreciate God for the harvest. And since then, it has now been a national holiday, and it has maintained its character, at least we need today. I can tell you throughout the weekend, until Sunday, we will be celebrating. Today is a national holiday for the of America, and all religions, though this is not a religious holiday, all religions have at least one form of thanksgiving or the other. Even the African religions, we thank God, we thank the God of whoever we call God. We thank Him at a time like this. It's a time to celebrate achievement. It's a time for us to see our values, our success, government, our lives, even just for being alive. That which God has given us that we appreciate. That is what we celebrate yearly. And I thank the nation of America for making it a national holiday. I consider this, and we should, as Ambazonians, consider this day for reflection. Even if you are not in the United States of America, consider this as a day to sit and reflect. While you are celebrating this or that, there are few and there are many in certain circumstances, especially in Amazonia, who have very little to celebrate, especially because of what they have been deprived of, what they have been denied of, their freedom, even their livelihood, their lives, their family, everything they were proud of. It's a time for us to remember beyond our personal achievements, especially in the United States. Just think about those very little to celebrate, who have very little to give thanks for. And let us extend out of what God has done for us some mercies, some graces towards them. Let us extend our generosity. Let us take out of our table, out of our abundance that we celebrate, something towards those that have little. That's the best way to do this. Cut a portion of your turkey, whatever that represents, and make sure that you remember our Amazonian resources who are dying in the trenches for the freedom that they have been denied. And they are asking when so that they can thank God. Remember, how did Amazon full of integrity and character who incarcerate don't know when this will end. Think about them. Think about our children, our mothers, our people in their hundreds of thousands who are refugees spread across the world in dungeons, hungry, with wounds, sick. Please, let's use this moment to reflect. You see, the word thanksgiving has two components, thanks and giving. And I was thinking about how to present this. It's like a cross. It's like a cross. It's a cross or a plus sign. That means there is the vertical and the horizontal. The vertical sign indicates that we should thank God or the creator or the giver of all things. And the horizontal is we must express our thanks also to the one on our left and the one on our right. Yes, that means to one another. Let's express this to one another. Let's express our thanksgiving. We give thanks to God and we show love to our fellow men. Let us do this at this time. You can go to the ABC Amazonia ABC Club and donate. You can go to our AID, where we are able to collect a few dollars. Take part of your dish today. Take part of your sacrifices and your purchases. Some people are doing impulse purchases today. And you don't forget the essential. Take out of that abundance. Go to AID, our AID platform, and donate something that will reach those who have very little to celebrate. That's my short message. I encourage you to spread this message to everyone, whether you are in the Americas or not. Once again, happy Thanksgiving. Whatever I told you, I've already done it. God bless you.
Well, you're welcome back and happy Thanksgiving in our years. Well, enablers and Blackleg, Capo Daniel claims responsibility for attacks in neighboring La Republic de Cameroon's Bamenyam village. The self-proclaimed chairman of the Ambazonian People's Rights Advocative Platform, an association comprising of Capo Daniel and his gang, is taken to their media immediately after the Bamenyam attack, fraught with inconsistency and controversy in all ramifications, to claim responsibility. The self-seeking and controversial Capo Daniel, who has been acting as spokesperson for the notorious Ayabacho's ADF gang, working together in alliance with the La Republic de Cameroon's Bees and Atanganji boys to kill and blackmail the Ambazonian Restoration Forces, is building a new outfit, Ambazonian People's Rights Advocate Platform, which only his sponsors, La Republic de Cameroon, can tell bona fide Ambazonian what the structure represents if it is not only on payroll of La Republic de Cameroon.
Well, Capodania does not represent Amazonia in anywhere or in any way and in any form, because by his fruits, Amazonians know him to be a traitor. Capodaniel, having banged the door against Choayaba, does not speak for the ADF gang as well. Claiming responsibility is to tell Amazonians that his so-called Amazonian People's Right Advocative Platform is an armed gang that attacked neighboring Bamenyam. The so-called self-proclaimed chairman of the Amazonians People's Rights Advocative Platform, Capodania, in his reaction to the Bamenyam attack that left at least 9 people dead and many others injured, said the boycotted the military who were concentrated in the subdivision for the Bagam chieftaincy issue.
Of course, and the Amazonian restoration fighters, the ARFs, are well schooled, very professional, and know what they are after. And for the homeland and will not have anything to do with chieftaincy issues in neighboring colonial law republic to Cameroon villages. Bamenyam vigilante member says colonial law republic to Cameroon security forces were alerted 24 hours before the attack. And about 4 p.m. the previous day, they got information that those boys were already in Bamenyam, a locality in neighboring Bagam, where they broke into a store and began drinking and saying that they must invade Bamenyam. Now, according to this person, it says our president then called us to alert us. In reaction, we gathered at the market square and informed forces that none of them showed up. We decided to spend the night at the square till dawn and declared vigilante committee member.
Oh, well, this is a confession from one of the vigilante members. He said the men, as they were told after spending the night at the market, did receive a helping hand from a few security forces until the next morning when things rapidly changed. And he said in the early hours at about 6 a.m. that fateful day, a woman came up to them and told them that one of their colleagues was caught and taken away by the boys down the other way. According to this vigilante, started their bikes and went there to see for themselves. When they reached there and saw the bike stationed and went to his house but could not find him, they decided to go to the gendarmerie unit and alerted them once more, but they did not react. Now, adding to what this vigilante said, he says from the brigade on their way back to the market, they saw them coming and went a second time to the security forces and told them that the boys were already in their land and they were coming in their numbers. And they passed the information 30 minutes later after the boys had invaded the market square and began shooting. They even began the shooting in front of this particular vigilante who made this confession. At the moment, standing with one of the security officers, even the one who was shot was just close to him. That's how, with the shooting, everyone began running for their life. This vigilante member went ahead to give further details that they were about 200 of them and had no guns. They only had their bikes, which they took away, and no committee member was thankfully.
Well, as we all know, the Amazonian restoration fighters are on specific mission under the President Ikomesako's led interim government, and this mission is self-defense to free homeland from over 62 years of annihilation and subjugation. This is the reason why the ARFs have put their lives on the line to free homeland, come rain and come shine. Now, Capo Daniel and his mercenaries and all of the platforms from the right advocative platform, the Bees, the ADF, the Tanganji axis have failed in several attempts to kill the people's genuine quest for freedom and to free them from bondage, trying to change their game plan, which is doomed to collapse. Junior is on the brighter side.
Moving on, the war in Amazonia keeps draining La Republique financially. How is this evident?
Well, this is evident because the University of has not been the same again since 2016. 2016, of course, is this entire former British Cameroon's Amazonian trauma, the war of decolonization. Well, created in 2010, the University of Bamenda was void of lecturer strike action until the paradigm shift in events in Ambazonia with the advent of the present armed conflict in Bamenda, to be precise, and the Federal Republic of Ambazonia at large. Though the university witnessed the deployment of pure French speaking staff into the school, which gave more reason to the 2016 protests by teachers. Financially, the University of Bamenda was running smoothly, but as the war deepened, the university is no longer as it was supposed to, meeting up with the routine of financial engagement. And what is work without financial engagement?
Well, it could have been understood if the University of Bamenda was not functioning in gear. But no, the University of Bamenda is fully operational, with students flooding at the different schools. Lecturers of the University of Bamenda are on a sit-home strike as their different dues have not been paid yet. Now, how can University of Bamenda be unable to pay allowances to lecturers when students have actually paid fees? Where have the fees been channeled to? And who is sitting on the lecturers' allowances at the University of Bamenda? Well, it should rather be that the fees paid by students are being used by La République du Cameroon to probably sustain the ongoing war in Ambazonia instead of considering lecturers responsible for molding the supposed leaders of tomorrow.
Well, lecturers of the University of Bamenyam are on a one-day strike action for the non-payment of different allowances they deserve. Lecturers are observing a 4-day strike rather on Tuesday, November 21st, 2023. This strike action by a communique issued from the Office of the Lecturers Trade Union. Now, according to the communique, lecturers are urged to observe a 4-day strike to show their frustration regarding the non-payment of lecturers' dues. The communique described the pause to lectures as a 4-day industrial action scheduled to run from Tuesday 21st to Friday 24th of November 2023.
Now, the union complains despite the presence of liquidity at the Treasury with the payment of fees by students, the dean and directors of faculties and schools have not been able to pay staff allowances, internal research, complementary hours, supervision, juries, part-time workers. Now, this is a second strike action initiated by the Academy 2023/2024 session by CNS University of Bamenda, demanding the payment benefits owed to lecturers. Now, at the time of the administration, University of Bamenda has been honest enough to come out to tell the disgruntled lecturers where the money paid by students has actually been channeled to. This is happening as the new school year has kicked off, and students have already paid fees and have invested a lot in cutthroat house rent.
Well, moving on, let's look at the teacher who was incarcerated for not complying to corruption at the um, police checkpoints. Well, the hunger for fascists pulled and pushed La Republic to Cameroon colonial police forces now embarrass and harass road users. The prime reason for the deployment of the colonial police officers of La Republic de Cameroon is to rob Ambazonians of their hard-earned money. These thugs have found on framing Ambazonians and linking them to their Ambazonian restoration forces just to squeeze money from them. A grade one teacher has been after refusing to bribe his way through a colonial police came up. The La Republic colonial police officers in Amazonia are only but robbers.
Well, a teacher of GS Gofungdin of the Inspectorate of Education for Noni in Boyi County of Amazonia is under La Republic Colonial Police cell in Bamenda for framed up charges. Though still unaccused, according to the civil police, are holding the great teacher for allegedly taking a snapshot of them at a colonial police checkpoint at mile 6. According to someone very familiar with the story, Shea Eric Ndikala was a grade 1 teacher in Din who escaped from the area following the current armed conflict in Amazonia. In Bamenda, Mr. Shea Eric engaged himself in public transportation, running bush markets in the region. But on Saturday, 2023, on his way back from a bush market in Boyo County, he was intercepted by a mixed colonial extortion at mile 6 in Queen, extent all his which he did.
Well, after the exercise, one of the officers called him back and said his phone camera on. The teacher showed in his trouser pocket, but the colonial officer insisted and removed the phone. Told him that he was taking a photo of the colonial police officers to go to the Amazonian forces. Then, familiar with the story, said that as an began, one of the colonial police officers used the phone and took a snapshot of themselves, the extortion point, to extort money from the failed. The colonial police are reported to have told him to buy his head off, if not to the Amazonian fighters. On a money needed from him, he was taken to the extortion post in Bamenyam for detention, where he's being detained for a framed up charge or motive.
Well, just in case you were buying the colonial lies, it should be recalled that Mr. Shea Eric is not the only person going through this tormenta. Many people have been falsely accused by this colonial security on trumped up charges against them just because they money to quash or the false evidence. A human rights group leader in June, Maryland, has the situation is worrisome, saying animals have gone through enough of the population should be spared of cage problem. According to Madam Marilyn says, I realize that when Larry public troops are unable to achieve their aims from the public, they turn to against the people. This is so bad to a nation they call one Cameroon. Well, at press time, Shea Eric was still in detention, and we can only hope that he finds justice, something that is hard in the Cameroons, but we can only hope.
All right, let's see what the Colonial Council is trying to do to shop owners as revenue collection streams are dry in La Republic du Cameroon.
Well, the effects of the ongoing war, which is 7 years and counting now, are still is still causing a lot of devastating effects, not only on the people of Amazonia, but especially on La Republic du Cameroon's run institutions in Amazonia. One of the highly affected institutions is the colonial councils. Because of the ongoing war in Amazonia, the principal revenue collection means for these colonial councils. The Colonial Tico Council is one of the most frustrated by the ongoing war. The Colonial Tico Council is now using unorthodox means to extort money from shop owners without any reason at all.
Well, shop owners in Tico are the decent treatment that they are receiving from the Colonial Tico Council. Worst of all, these shop owners have no way to channel their problems as the scheme of the Colonial Council is a chain or to chain them with other colonial administrative offices. Now, before the 17th of November, selling of shops in Tico, the Colonial Tico Council had ordered shop owners who handed the frontage of their shops to pay to the sum of 20,000 francs. Now, to the dismay of shop owners, before getting to their shops that Friday morning, their shops were sealed. The Colonial Tico Council workers had earlier and heavily guarded by La Republic du Cameroon colonial military officers. The worry of the traders is not only that their shops were sealed in their absence, but that they have not extended the frontage of the shops to the attack of the Colonial Tico Council money and why they are being embarrassed.
Well, information gotten on the ground is that all the shop owners are being the sum of 20,000 francs CFA for the shops to be reopened, irrespective of if they are extended. Why should the council be so desperate to make money that they can respect the requirements? Is a question that one of the shop owners have asked without no answers. But press that have complied are unsealed. Oh, well, moving on, Colonial La République has been confirmed as failed by Bretton Woods institution. The banana championed world corruption charts in 1998 and 1999 has been confirmed having corruption in its DNA. La République is unable to realize projects even in its own territory due to corruption and embezzlement. The failed country has fed the southern Cameroons with which it captured in 1961 with promises. Ahijo, the first president, promised and left office over 60 years without realizing it.
Well, Paul B., the monarch promised on April 1983 that he was going to supervise the road 40 years, and he has instead brought genocide on the peace-loving Amazonians. Paul Bier's project, nicknamed Reconstruction of War-Torn Amazon, launched in 2019, is not taken off yet. And what can Amazonians expect again from a failed state that has stifled Amazonians for overseas?
Very good question. What can we say? More lies from the failed colonial regime continue. New lies reaching undaunted say the ambitious project to construct the ring, the vital transportation route northern zone, has taken a significant step forward as the company Hard Mag RL has commenced topographic surveys for the Mbie, Mbot, Binka, Binchwa, Nkambe section.
Well, the contract added to Magsal for a total amount of 28 billion 909,125 838 francs CFA, encompasses a stretch of 31 kilometers along National Road 11. Now, currently, the construction activities primarily focuses on the Ndumbeye, both Binka, Binshwa, and Nkambe section involving various essential tasks. These include topographical surveys, scouting for the Barrow site, establishing the company's base, and clearing the rock quarry site.
Well, the comprehensive schedule presented by Mag Searle outlines the commencement of geotechnical studies and the continuation of topographic surveys between kilometers point 39 plus 000 and 53 plus 200, as well as 63.400 T plus 000. However, the ongoing heavy rainfall poses a challenge for the transportation of the company's mechanized work equipment. Multiple quagmires have formed along the route, rendering certain areas impassable. As a result, the company faces difficulties in mobilizing their equipment, and this could take some more decades. The Undu Mbot Binka Binchwa and Kambe section, which cuts across Donga Matun County, demands meticulous construction. The company is tasked with building a 31 featuring a 5 centimeter thick layer of luminous concrete.
Well, the Dream Road will be 7 meters wide and will include 1.5 meters of shoulder on each side in open country areas. In built-up areas, the road widens to 14 meters, 3.5 by 2 by 2, with 1.5 meters of sidewalks on both sides and a 0.57 meter separator known as DBA. To address sleep slopes, an additional 3-meter lane will be incorporated in specific areas, ensuring safer and more efficient travel along the route. As the traffic surveys commences and the groundwork progresses, the completion of this crucial transportation infrastructure promises to facilitate economic growth and improve accessibility for visitors and the surrounding areas in whichever age it will be realized.
Well, as far as we're concerned, and all keen observing persons, this is just another bogus fronting, not far from the likes of the same promise 4 decades ago, and even restated a couple months ago. Well, what's that quote about rat biting your toe and on it, so you don't get to notice? We would be apt to say that's exactly what La République is doing to its citizens and the sieged southern Cameroons with its white elephant. Oh, well, before we get into the African report, as you know, the president is very keen when it comes to diplomacy. A recent Recently, he was invited by Instituto Asusa on African Friends, where he got opportunity to talk about Ambazonia, the struggle for liberation, and the historicity of Ambazonia. A lot of people in the world do not know this part. Well, with no further ado, let's not say much of what the president say. Let's hear it from him directly.
Dear people of Brazil, beloved Africans of the diaspora, fellow activists and intellectuals, let me recognize the Reverend Sergio Melo and the Asusa Institute team for inviting me to this important conference. Brazil, for your interest in the conflict and sufferings of the annexed people of southern Cameroon, Ambazonia, a former autonomous and trust territory in West Africa. My name is Samuel Ikome Sako, the head of the revolutionary government of Ambazonia. It is characteristic of revolutionary politics for the enemy, in our case, it is the government of Cameroon and France, to sponsor individual spoilers and splinters to diminish the strength of their opponent. And in our case, attempt to obfuscate the fact that this conflict involves two and two different countries. There are lots of fake websites, misinformation, and fake groups online bankrolled by the Yaoundé and French agents just to efforts cover the truth and undermine the legitimate authority over the southern Cameroon's Amazon forever. Leadership in a liberal context like ours is not by title only. It is by and legitimacy to do with the following and support a leader enjoys amongst his people. In this regard, I can tell you unequivocally that I am the most consequential leader of the annexed people of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia since 2000, and our website is www.statehouseboya.org. According to the Norwegian Refugee Council, Cameroon, and in this case, it has to do with Ambazonia, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Burkina Faso, as of 2020, are the most neglected displacement crisis in the world. More than 50,000 civilians have been killed, and this is more than the Ukraine, Russia, and Israel Hamas wars combined. About 5,000 of our people are incarcerated without trial by French Cameroon in their dungeons. More than 1.6 million internally displaced and over 300,000 refugees in Nigeria, Ghana, Cyprus, the world. What's going on in Ambazonia is horrendous. It is ethnic cleansing. It is genocide. It's a humanitarian catastrophe and the worst abuse of human rights in modern times by the state of Cameroon. Some history. The Republic of Cameroon was granted independence on January 1st, 1960. Nigeria, our borders, our neighbors to the west, had their own independence granted on the 1st of October 1960. When it came to our turn in 1961, the post-World War II Cold War order that the southern Cameroon and Ambazonia be granted independence by joining either French Cameroon or independent Nigeria, even though we opted overwhelmingly for a standalone independence. We had our government, a head of state, a bicameral parliament, a functional judiciary, a police force, and functional institutions of state, departments of state. Britain told the United Nations then we were too little and too poor to stand alone. But in reality, they feared fall into the hands of communist ideologues like Kwame Nkrumah, voted following their options to obtain independence by joining the French Cameroon in a federation of two states of status. The United Nations passed Resolution 1608 prescribing the process of joining the two countries to form a new country to be called the Federal Republic of the Cameroons. According to the United Nations 102, such a union of necessity requires that both states sign a UN treaty and deposit same at the United Nations. Only then can their individual borders be dissolved to form new borders for the new nation. Unfortunately, while our leaders were contemplating a union of as mandated by the United Nations, the French government, under the influence, were bracing for. So, what was supposed to be our walk into freedom marked the beginning of our annexation and annexation by the French proxy state of Cameroon. They refused to sign the Treaty of Union with us. They dissolved our government and punished our institutions. And 11 years road, they fraudulently ended the United Nations mandated federation. Since 1961, the Cameroon regime instituted a system of apartheid, carrying out assassinations, incarceration, enforced disappearances, intimidations, exploitation, systematic assimilation of our people of southern Cameroon, Ambazonia, just to subdue us. Realized that 80% of petroleum resources are in our land, and that Amazonia accounted for 60-70% of the GDP of the Cameroon colonial state, even though we are only 20% as they say, population of the colonial state. In 2000, southern civil society all came to request that the country either return to its original federation of two states of equal status, or we both go our separate ways. All hell break loose as the French proxy state was advised by France to declare war on us. Since then, Cameroon soldiers target and massacre babies, our children, our men, our young boys in Amazonia. They are doing so daily with machine guns, with bombs, with helicopter gunships. French Cameroon has withdrawn from all international attempts at mediation, whether in Switzerland or somewhere in Canada, preferring the military option to resolving a political issue. Working hard to push the United States government, willing nations, including Brazil, and the African diaspora at large, to go beyond the inertia of movements of condemnation and force the bloody aim of Yaoundé to meet Amazonia on the table to address the root causes of this war. We also need help to defend our people from being massacred by French in this proxy war of theirs, just for our right. Thank you very much for having me, and God bless you.
Well, news across the globe with undaunted perspective. South Africa, specifically Tunisia, tensions are rising as trade unionists protest the arrest of 4 of its members. The UGTT, Tunisia's trade union organization, organized a protest in Sfax following the arrest of its regional secretary general Youssef Ouadine and the other members. He has accused the government of making the arrest based on political motivations rather than judicial reasons. This has sparked concern about potential trade unionists and the undermining of the trade union center.
Well, turning our attention to East Africa, Kenya is making headlines with President William Ruto's announcement of plans to privatize 35 state-owned companies. In addition, the government is considering opening up the capital of 100 other entities as the city grapples with financial difficulties. The International Monetary Fund (IMF) has been urging for reform within the state owners, especially pointing out the national electricity supplier Kenya Power and the airline Kenya Airways, both of which have reported significant losses. This move has significant implications not only locally but also within the broader African economic landscape.
Well, these statements reflect broader issues within the African continent, touching on governance, economic challenges, and the role of civil society across the continent. And across continent, political decisions that concerns and impact the lives of citizens, and it's crucial to consider these events within a pan-African.
Well, you know, the decision made by government, the impact sectors such as unions and state-owned enterprises have far-reaching implications. It is important for us to keep a keen eye on these developments as they unfold and consider how they fit into the larger panorama of global politics, economic, and social dynamics.
Absolutely, Onyin. That's not all. Tonight's Pan African perspective on the latest news across the continent with Undaunted. On a sober note from Central Africa, specifically in the Republic of Congo, where National Day of Mourning was declared following the tragic death of 31 youths in a stampede during an army recruitment operation in Seville. Reports has it that the incident, which occurred at the Michael Diornano Stadium, has left 145 persons injured. The government has initiated both a judicial and administrative investigation to determine the causes of this tragedy.
Well, in West Africa, in Liberia, newly elected President Joseph Boakai has called for unity and support. His first speech since being officially elected. Following a narrow margin victory, Boakai emphasized the importance of coming together as a nation to rebuild and move forward. His opponent, former President George Weah, gracefully accepted the results, showcasing the peaceful transfer of power in Liberia.
Important to highlight the commitment to democratic processes and the peaceful transition of power for all Africans. And now shifting to global politics, let's examine the situation in Amazonia, where neocolonialism and of genocide are being perpetrated by French Cameroon. The crisis in the CIMAC sub-region requires international attention and solidarity to address the human rights violation and promote peace and stability.
Absolutely. Their situation is amazing, and the standing of Virginia is alarming and demands a pan African perspective to address the underlying issues of colonial legacy and, ethnic tensions there.
Indeed, Oni, it is crucial for us to continue providing insightful commentaries on sub-regional politics and global affairs, shedding light on critical issues such as those in Amazonia. Still in West and Central Africa, Senegalese opposition leader Ousmane Sonko has decided to end his strike that he initiated in mid-October. Now, this announcement was made by two of his party officials who visited him in prison. Habib C, an official in the opposition coalition, also confirmed the news by publishing an authenticated text on his Facebook page.
Well, it is important to note that even despite uncertainty surrounding Sonko's bid for the 2020 election, his party remains steadfast in their support for him. A party official, Mr. Sagnar, affirmed that Sonko is still their one and only candidate. However, the Senegal Supreme Court's recent decision to overturn the ruling that instated Sonko in the pressure races threw a wrench in his plan. This decision was made following Sonko's conviction in a vice case.
While in light of this setback, Sonko's party, PASTEF, is rallying support for another figure, Bassirou Diomaye Faye. They are advocating for Faye as a sponsored candidate, emphasizing that to support Faye is to support Sonko. Despite this, continues to assert that Ousmane Sonko's candidacy remains their top priority. With uncertainties looming over the upcoming election, Sonko and his supporters face a challenging road ahead. Now, these stories of great interest across Africa. Undaunted will continue to provide you with insightful commentaries and analysis that serves the interest of the African people and the global community.
Right, news across the globe. Let's start with the war happening in Gaza. Now, a doctor at Shifra's hospital in Gaza City tells AFP that the facility's director and several other medical personnel were arrested by Israeli forces. Why were they arrested? Now, Dr. Mohammed Abu Salimia was arrested along with several doctors. Now, he was arrested, and this is from Khalid Abu Samara, who is a chief of department at the hospital, and he has said it has been a major focus of the release operation against Hamas. Now, a report in the Khan public broadcaster says that Abu Samia is being questioned by the Shin Bet and IDF's intelligence, and army reports that he was detained as he was moving to evacuate to the south of the strip.
Well, also 30 to 50 rockets set fired at Israel from Lebanon in largest barrage since start of war. According to initial estimates cited by Hebrew language media, 30 and 50 rockets were fired from Lebanon at the Upper Galilee, making it the largest barrage since the beginning of fighting on the northern border. Footage shows a number of rockets being intercepted over the area. There are no reports of injuries as a result of the attack. The Hezbollah terror group claims responsibility for the attack, saying it fired 48 rockets at an IDF base near Saf.
Meanwhile, in the Ukraine, fears grow in Congress over Ukraine and Israel amid dispute over immigration and spending cuts. President Joe Biden made an urgent plea over the weekend for U.S. support to bolster Ukraine and Israel at a time of war, saying the world faces an inflation point that could set the course of the next generation. But on the Capitol Hill, the prospect of such aid and such aid package for the two countries appears as grim as ever. Now, according to the congressman, it says we may not have supplemental. Senator John Kennedy, a Republican from Louisiana, said matter of fact of the national security package stored in Congress of an immigration dispute couldn't be worked out. Now, unlike other instances where Congress tends to quickly approve urgently needed aid, lawmakers in both parties are not only questioning when emergency package and you can get on at all. It are better to continue supporting Ukraine and now Israel. What Amazonia?
Oh, well, in the latest adherence to the BRICS de-dollarization efforts, India and Egypt have held this in attempts to ditch the U.S. trade relation. Indeed, Egypt was one of 6 nations that joined the bloc at its 2023 act. Now its trade with the original BRICS members to be settled in local currencies. India has been one of the most important support effort to lessen international reliance on the dollar. The requested dollar be abandoned trade relations with Ethiopia. Subsequently, settled the landmark oil United Arab Emirates UAE in currencies.
Still on BRICS, countries call for permanent ceasefire in Gaza. The BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, have called for an immediate and lasting humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza war. A further destabilization and escalation of violence must be prevented, the group said in a statement on Tuesday at the end of a virtual extraordinary meeting. It emphasized the need for a two-state solution to the conflict between Israel and the Palestinians. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres and the representatives from Saudi Arabia, Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates will become members of the BRICS group in 2024. Well, they also took part in the video call.
Oh well, wives and mothers of Russian soldiers who have been mobilized for the war in Ukraine are facing restrictions and intimidation as they demand to bring their loved ones back from the front. On Sunday, a group of women held an anti-mobilization protest in the suburb of Novosibirsk. The independent news outlet reported this similar protest planned in Moscow and St. Petersburg were nation this month, but around 30 women managed to stage a short picket in the Russian capital. This month, female relatives of the soldiers sent to Ukraine in President Vladimir Putin's partial of 300,000 last year published an appeal on the Put Domoy, that is, way home. Telegram channel demanding a complete mobilization. Now, civilians should not take part in hostilities, said a statement to that.
Right, let's we got Ellison in the sports studio.
Latest world sports. Football Wembley arc to be lit only for football and under new FA policy. Wembley's arc will only be lit for football and entertainment under a new policy approved by the Football Association Board. The decision followed after the arc was not lit in the colors of the Israel flag following attacks on the country by Hamas in October. Israel retaliated with airstrikes on Gaza and stopped food, water, fuel, and medicine going. A period of silence was held at Wembley for innocent victims of the conflict that preceded England's friendly against Australia on 13th October. They had to be lit in the colors of the Israeli flag after the attacks by Hamas senior military group. The decision not to do so was described as disappointing by the UK government, and Rabbi Alex Goldberg resigned from an FA faith in football group. Senior officials were known to be wary of a perception they might be taking sides on the issue and insisted they acted on expert advice. But they later accepted the episode had caused hurt to the Jewish community, describing it as one of the hardest decisions ever had to make. Now, as first reported by The Telegraph, the FA will restrict the lighting of the arc to far fewer occasions in recognition of the fact it is a football and entertainment venue, a political one. The FA a number of calls and campaigns, but will eliminate the arc. For them, it will be lit when Wembley is hosting matches or stands when there are natural disasters or tragedies, as in the past. Previously, the FA has lit to including Remembrance Day and International Women's Day, or to pay tribute to victims of the war in Ukraine or of terror attacks such as in 2015. But understood, it felt it had little choice approach. FA Chief Executive Mark said last month the committee made this question like the art will be reviewed. San Antonio sports coach Greg Chastain Kawhi Leonard, LA Clippers. San coach Greg Popovich chastised home fans who jeered former player during the 109-102 defeat to LA Clippers. Leonard left the scene and was booed by their fans as he lined up to take few in a second. Popovich grabbed the courtside microphone to make a spike. He announced, "Excuse me, firstly, stop all, let this guy play and show little class. Knock off the boo. Leonard played the Star Sports NBA Finals victory in 2010, being the most valuable player on series victory over the Miami Heat. However, he asked to be traded during his rehabilitation from injury. Only brief subject when he stirs after the match and said he did not want fired up by the crowd. Leonard ended up top scorer for the Clippers in the match at the first bank with 26 points, including scoring free throws either side of the breast over the public address system. You don't the beer anything about sports. Don't poke the beer, Popovich added. It was not section of the sports fans were some of the most passionate he had encountered. If I don't have a sport jersey on, they're gonna boo me here, he said. It is what it is. They're one of the best fan base. They're competitive. And when I step on this basketball court, can hear that on the streets or going into restaurants, they show. Marlons, former West Indies batter banned players after Indies battles has been banned from all cricket for 6 years for breaching hours following tribunal. Samuels was found guilty by the International Cricket Council for breaking for the 2019 Amba League in August this year. The 42-year-old professional cricket in November, he won cup twice for West Indies in both finals. Samuels played 71 tests, 107 one-day internationals, and 20s for West Indies between 2000 and December 2018. This year, he was found to have closer received of a gift or the benefit could bring the participant or sport of cricket into this and of disclosed hospitality with more than £600. He was found guilty of failing to cooperate with and of obstructing or by that may have haven't been charged by governing body in September 2021. Alex Marshall, CC's HR and Integrity Unit, said Mr. Samuels played in cricket for close to during which he participated in numerous corruption sessions and knew exactly what were under the anti-corruption codes. Though he is retired now, Mr. Samuels was a participant. Offences were committed. The ban of this will act as a strong deterrent to any participant who intends to break the rules. This year, Samuels was banned from cricket for 2 years between 2008 and 2010 for passing information to a bookmaker in a one-day in 2007. In an unrelated punishment, he was suspended from bowling his off-spin 3 times for having his first offense in 2008, 2-year ban, while he was banned from bowling cricket since 2013. Again, in 2015, Samuels also crashed with a number of opponents on the field, including Australia legend Shane Warne, England all-rounder Ben Stokes, with whom he had a long-running battle, and Simmer Onions. Gab LRC reporting from Daunted, ABC Amba News.
All right, thank you, Gab. And with our sports news, we've come to the end of Undaunted tonight. But before we go, let's take a look at major highlights.
On Undaunted tonight, we saw the Bamenyam, and we wondered if it was a fight to the Ibeka case or an act to discredit again. We saw the war in Amazonia as in Larry Public Finance. We saw enablers in Black claim diversity for the neighboring La Republic's Bamenyam massacre.
Well, tonight at La Republic, the Cameroon race in the ring road that was promised 4 years ago. Also tonight, addressed by La Republicans check Bamenyam. Tonight on Undone, looked at the Colonial Council of Tico trying to collect tax from shop owners. On the can see headlines with Professor William Ruth's announcement plans to price 35 state-owned companies. BRICS in the US dollar trade that was on the foreign scene. And that's it for tonight on to bringing into George stories. Coming up next is The Horizon.